Hello ladies, welcome to Homemakers Radio. I'm quite honored that you came to listen today, and I hope you get a few things done. I do have a few things to show you, so you will have to stop and look. I don't like to do that because this is a listening thing, like we did in the olden days when we listened to the radio while we washed dishes. And if you are new here, please go over to the link that I provided to listen to this, because there are other things on the post and I'd like you to see it, and you can leave a comment there. I don't have comments on the channel because I don't want to deal with too much social media. I'm happy with my with what I'm doing here on my blog, and also have email, but I don't want to spend too much time with other things. And so please leave a comment there if you want to make a comment, or you may go to my email and email me and I will post it for you. And today I have three things I like to talk about, and one is getting ready, and let's make sure you can hear me, and the other is taking care of your home. I don't have the exact way that you can take care of your home because everybody's house is different, everybody's circumstances are different. Some of us live a little more primitively than others, and we don't have all the conveniences, but I'll just give you some general principles to use in your home. Now, today is what they call Valentine's Day in the USA. Everyone loves it, from children to old people to men to anybody. Valentine's Day is for everybody, and they really like getting that box of that heart-shaped box of chocolates. And so I've just kind of taken out my Valentine's pillow back there, and I wanted to just show you a few things about this this decor, and maybe give you a few ideas. And one of the things I'd like you to do is take up the challenge that I've taken up since captivity, and that is to use these days and this time to do your best and do better and be more knowledgeable on the other side of it, more skillful and happier at home, more able to cope with your home making, to be more skilled at it. And because we don't have to rush out to go anywhere now, we can stay home. And I have decided to go ahead and just stay home. I do go out once in a while, but not commercially. I don't bother with the commercial shopping, and I order just about everything. And Mr. S gets me things on the way home from his various appointments, but I wanted to see if I could have more time to do other things in the home that had always frustrated me, things I just never could get at, that were just getting more and more disheveled and uncoordinated. So I'm doing a little bit better that way, and I started doing videos for you. That's what I am doing instead of being in the car. So a lot of women at home, although they were homemakers dedicated to the home, were always frustrated because they were spending more. I know of a lady that said she had spent 6 hours in her car one day doing all the various errands that she had to do commercially, and so she said she was in a sense actually a working woman, because she was out doing a day's work and she still had to come home and do all the home things. So now we have time. We have a chance. God's given us some time off, and maybe we can get something done in the home. And I hope that these videos will help you. Now, before you go to work, I'll do my show and tell. I'm going to show you the teacup that I'm using here, and it's from Stitch Call China, and I got it at Home Goods before captivity. And I love it because it has a nice glossy finish on it. I really prefer those kind. They have the nice glossy finish rather than the rough finish, and it kind of goes with the decor here. And so I wanted to show you something about the bedding in the back, because as you've noticed, there's been a change since you were here last time. And so I wanted to just show you, first of all, what I do is if I get any kind of a blanket for my bed, I will get one that has two sides to it that are once printed, maybe both are printed. And if you see this one, it has such a scope for use in decor. There's one part on it that's green, and just so much you could bring out here on this. It has a faux patchwork on it, and beautiful roses right here. And then on the other side, it's just a solid burgundy. And what I will do is I will use it as the main cover over the bed, or I will use another one as a main cover and then roll this down and fold it as a kind of a runner going across the end of the bed. Well, here's another one. Now this one I got at Target many years ago, and it's one of the Rachel Ashwell shabby chic ones, but if you'll notice, it has this print on this side and then a different print on the other side. Now combining these two, I might use this as the solid color on the bed and then roll this up so that the print of the little roses show, or I might just do the opposite. And if anybody, if you want to make a pillow for yourself or a cushion, just make sure that the other side is a different color. See, I could use this in a white decor, and you don't have to use the same color on both sides. So that's what I do, and that's how I can. And also for pillowcases, if I buy pillowcases or make them, I'll make them in colors so that they can also be used by just covering the pillow with it and putting it on the outside of the bed to show. And in my last video, you'll see the ones that were, I'll just show you this here, right? This is from the previous video. This is just a sage green pillowcase that I bought a set of, and that will not go under that bedspread. I will put it on the outside as color. And then we all have little short little blankets, and that will go on the end of the bed. And I noticed in some of the high-end hotels when we used to be out, when we used to go places and travel, that they're not using bedspreads anymore. They're using little runners that go across the end of the bed, because that way they don't have to put that bedspread in the wash all the time. And this is just decorative, and it's a little, it just looks like a table runner, like on a coffee table runner, about this wide, and they're colorful, and they'll match the pillow that they put on there. It's just more expedient. And so today I have a few things to show you. My mail. So I have a letter that I got from somebody in Austin, Texas. She has the most beautiful name, Tiara, and she lives in Austin. And she sent me a letter, and it has a pretty stamp on it. And let me just see what it is here. Here's the letter right here. I don't know if she actually reads the blog. She has other types of, she's busy. She has a large family. I believe she has about 8 children. And so I wanted you to see what she enclosed. Package of sunflower seeds. And she did all this for one stamp. I guess everybody kind of knows. You kind of sense it. So I got these, and it's called Lemon Queen. Isn't that a pretty name for a package of sunflower seeds? Lemon Queen. And so then she gave me, and I just love it because I adore bluebonnets. You know, I used to live in Texas, and you used to be able to buy the fake flowers that were bluebonnets. I haven't seen them in years. And I had some when I first came here from Texas, but kind of worn them out, and I wish that I had been able to save them. And then on the other side, of course, is the steer. And so this has just been an absolute delight, and to hear from somebody. And I believe that the post office is going to be very busy, because as people find that maybe they're not able to use the internet as much anymore, they really need to learn these social skills of writing. And it doesn't matter, you know, there's really no rules these days for the common people like us as to what you write on. This is just school paper. I wish they'd made school paper more beautiful, though. The only advantage of this is if you had a 3-ring notebook, you could actually insert your letters in it. That would be nice. And she sent me a picture of all her she and her family and all her children, which is nice. And so now I want to show you another thing that I received. And this is very unusual. You notice the binding on this? Have you ever had an old book and the cover came off and you noticed there was this sewn binding on it? Well, one of my grandchildren figured out how to get a Bible, and this is called the Tyndale Bible. I don't know if you know who Tyndale was. You might want to just look him up. It's Tyndale. And he was familiar with the Greek, and he had a publication called the Tyndale Bible, and he did borrow from other Bibles, which were Thomas Matthews' Bible, the Bishop's Bible, the Great Bible, and other Bibles. You know, there were a lot of English Bibles that existed before the KJV, if you didn't know that. And this was one of them, Tyndale, someone that I liked a lot. And it's so interesting to see the Old English in it. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto. Now I want you to see how they spelled is, Y-S. The kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom is K-Y-N-G-D-O-M. And what he did is he found a place where you could get the chapters printed, and I guess he paid for them, and then he bound them all in this book for me. And he has a little card that came here. This book is bound in the Coptic style, the same style that Codex Sinaiticus is bound. It is similar to the way that books were bound in the time of Tyndale, though there are differences. DJ Publishing did not have the finances needed to hire a scribe, so they used a printer and an undergraduate. If you are not satisfied with the quality of this cover, return it free of charge. So it's the Tyndale New Testament, and he had this wrapped around the book, and then he embroidered the word Tyndale on there, so I'd know what it was, and he made the cover out of, he's hand-stitched this cover out of some kind of woven fabric that's natural. So I'm really amused to get that. And I have a couple of other things, so if you want to just get yourself a cup of tea and relax, you can. Now, I also got in the mail a little package and a note from someone that I know that had been to my house years ago when I had a garden tea for some of the ladies of the church, and she had come from quite a ways in Oregon, and so she had mailed me something, and it looks like it's hand embroidered. I don't know if she did it or not, but I needed it really badly, and that's an apron. And it says Clean Day on it, so I think that might be part of a series. And I actually hope she doesn't send me the baking day, because I'll probably just go and start baking and eating and gaining back all the weight that I lost from exercise. But one of the mistakes that I've made in trying to sew my own aprons is using the thin dress fabric. That doesn't work well for aprons. They wear out really quick and they're not very protective. But these are nice, what would you call it, cotton duck or sailor cloth. And so I really like this, and I'm going to wear this with a black dress so that it'll look like a maid. And I'll just take on a different row and make it a little more interesting. And another thing that came that I had ordered was from Hobby Lobby. So I wanted to show you this. Hobby Lobby's aprons are usually $20 or $21. Well, they went on sale, and I got each one for $8. And they also have the very nice thick fabric. I'm trying to think of what we called it. Sailcloth, I think, is what we originally called it, but it's very thick, and it takes, it doesn't absorb the stains or the water as badly. So that's why I decided to start buying them, because they're done on an industrial type machine, and I don't think I could have sewn them as well. So even though they're the easiest thing in the world to sew, I really am happy. Look, these are so nice and thick, and whenever I've tried to make my own, they wear out rather quickly. So I wanted to show you that from Hobby Lobby, and then I had ordered another one that they had on sale. This is really pretty. I have to show you this one. So I was really glad to get this package, and it came to the door, and there is an unusual way those are sewn on. They're kind of an applique, but they've left the edges unturned, so that when that's washed, I know those will be all frilly and fluffy. So I really enjoy that. Really enjoy having that. Now, I had told you before that I have kind of a contest going on with some of my grandchildren as to what you can do with brown paper or paper bag. Now, here in the USA, we get brown paper that's real thick. And since I have had a lot of things coming to the door, to the captive, I have a lot of this, a lot of boxes, a lot more of this, so what am I going to do with it? Well, I've found some other use for it, and that is to line the drawers in your kitchen, or even the drawers that you put your clothing in, if anyone's using drawers anymore. And one of the reasons that people use liners in drawers was that the solid wood could get all scraped up, or pieces of it could come off. So you line your drawers to protect that wood, and especially kitchen utensils and things that you have in the kitchen. So that's what I did, and you don't have to cut it exactly, just eye it, stick it in, and then tuck it in around the sides, and then you can change it out and it'll be fresh. So what I do is this kind of thing would come in a box, lots of it, and I'll iron it so that it can be folded up, and it looks very pretty for packages and presents tied up in a pretty string. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is what you could do with a box that's been cut like this, you know, is paint it. See, I painted this to make a little tray for someone who was in bed, wasn't feeling well, and I brought in a lunch. And also, I don't know, it's just fun to do things that are decorative, and this kind of goes with that scene behind me. And so what I do when I'm trying to recreate a bedroom to just give it a little bit of a difference, and so that I don't get too bored. This is the guest room, so I can do many different things with it. I have my ways in my own room that's a little bit more boring, but with a guest room I can do different things with it. So what I've done is I've gotten out my heart cushion that I made years ago out of a fabric called Minky Dot, which I just love. It's the softest thing. And then what I have put on the end of the bed, because I didn't have one of those short little blankets, is I just put a piece of fleece fabric that I'd made into a coat, because it goes with. And then, you know, I can get things from go to my sewing room and find different things, like here's some ribbon, I might do something with that, a pair of gloves, and of course the box that I painted. And so since you're home more, you can do it. Now, you couldn't do this kind of thing in a bed and breakfast or a hotel or any place that you worked, but you can do it at home. You can do what you want at home. If there were someone coming, I might not do all that, might make it a little more plain, but for some girls that are coming over for a tea and they like to kind of go on a home tour, I like to have a different look in this room every now and then. So I wanted to show you that because I can't really demonstrate what I've done, but I did take the blankets off and show you what I would have done with these blankets. As a matter of fact, here's a quilt that on one side has got all the different colors, and then on the inside is plain. See here? So with these 3 blankets, I have 6 looks, or 12 or 24, depending what I do with them. I have 6 looks, but then I actually have 12 when I think of using them as runners or as blankets at the end of the bed. And it's the same with pillowcases. I'll get those in color or white, but I can use them, and that way there's no storage problem. They're just being used on the bed. These blankets will go under that bedspread, and so there won't be any problem with storage. And so the most important thing, I think, before you get started is to make sure that your appearance has been taken care of. Now, why do ladies like to get dressed up? Well, if you grew up with someone, if you grew up in a home where the women were home, they did make an effort. They tried to get dressed in the morning, and it's part of our self-improvement too, to get in habit like that. You know, I mentioned, let's come out of the other side of this situation, this captivity, more knowledgeable and better and more confident. And one of the things that getting dressed will help is with confidence, self-confidence. And I think it's very important. It's also part of self-control. The Bible does teach that, you know. It teaches, if you want to look up the word self in the Bible, you might find that there was a lot of focus on improving yourself. We don't like to think of ourselves so much, do we? Because we're always taught growing up to care more about others, not to be self-centered. But there are a lot of admonitions to self. And I believe that one of them is to glorify God in your body, and also to be careful with things like modesty and things like appropriateness. And so I remembered that there was a verse in the Bible that says, "He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much." Well, getting dressed and taking care of yourself, doing your skincare and your hair seem like just such a small, trivial thing, especially if you have grown up going somewhere else, grown up going to institutions, being institution focused and not home focused. It's really hard, isn't it? Especially people come home, then they just kind of lay around and don't have a sense of how grand it really is and what purpose a home has. And so it does give you, believe, a sense of purpose. Everybody is different, as Jane said to Lizzie. Everybody is different. Everyone will feel differently about this. But I've often challenged people to try it two ways and compare the day and see what your mood was and see what other people's reaction to you was. And I noticed that when women will say that they didn't bother to get dressed, there was more aggravation and whining going on in the home. And so, or, things started to go wrong. So live as though, dress as though you will be needed. Dress as though you are doing something of sublime importance. And you will find that getting dressed might be all you need to improve your mood and your motivation. Motivation is a problem. Especially if you're alone, I think motivation can be a big problem. And I have spent a lot of time alone and through various circumstances, and noticed that getting dressed at least is something you can do, and it takes the time it fills. One of the problems of living alone is filling up the time so that you don't notice so much that you are alone. And so that's why I say make appointments for yourself, and try different activities, and make an appointment to go get dressed, just as though you were going to a hairdresser or a makeup artist or a clothier, and just go and do it yourself and learn to be a do-it-yourselfer. Now that you're home, let's learn to be do-it-yourselfers, and then you'll be less focused on what others can do for you and what the machine out there can do for you and what the society out there can do for you, and try to do it all yourself. And that's just an amazing journey, learning to do things for yourself and not dependent on others. So live as though you'll be needed, and remember, as you take care of yourself, I believe that was in Luke somewhere, he who's faithful in little will be faithful in much. As you learn to be faithful, that means getting a good habit in getting dressed and getting ready. Actually, you can take on more responsibility, and it doesn't seem overwhelming. He who's faithful in little will be faithful in much. That might be something to ponder on. That might be a verse you want to ponder on. And as you are being homeschooled by me, that is one of your assignments. Ponder on that. It's Luke 16:11. He who's faithful in little will be faithful in much. Now, as you go through your day at home, once you get the appearance out of the way, every now and then you do have to go back and pat your hair, look in the mirror, and reapply something, maybe a little bit of scent, something pleasant to inspire you. And you have to divide your day, and you have to divide it into sections. And I remember reading about some of the Victorian women. I had a Victorian great-grandmother, as a matter of fact, that would write to me when I was 16. I remember her letters. And they had a thing about going through the day and doing things that had to be done during certain times of day. Well, now we live in a time of automation, and it's kind of like when in the summer we ate strawberries. We never ate them in the winter unless it was the jam, because the fresh strawberries weren't available. Well, now you can get fresh stuff all year round, so you're not eating them in season. Well, they only did things in season because that was when the stuff was available. The fresh stuff was available. Then after that, they ate the things that had been saved and made into, other types of food, dried food and such. But if you could also do that for your day, like do morning things in the morning, afternoon things in the afternoon and evening things in the evening. Well, it's hard for us because we are living in an era where anything can be done at any time, whether the sun is shining or not, whether the weather is nice or not. No matter, we just turn on a light and make it into summer and start doing things. But try to imagine what it's like to do things in the morning that were done in the morning while the light was there. And I can remember seeing photographs of women sitting at their desk doing their correspondence in the morning, or doing their family finance page, or their ordering in the morning. And that doesn't mean that we would have to do that, but then there would be the afternoon things. And interestingly enough, sometimes these Victorians would change clothes. They would have a morning outfit. If you go and look at patterns, which I do a lot, and I sew, and if you're used to textiles and patterns and historical patterns, you'll notice there was a morning dress, there was an afternoon dress, and there was an evening dress. So they had different things to change into for different things that they did. And the day was divided up into approximately 3 pieces, morning, afternoon, and evening. Perhaps you could do that if you're living alone, or if you have children and you want to experience what it would have been like to live back in the olden days. And a lot of it had to do with the change in the light and the change in the weather. As towards evening, things get a little cooler, and you'd have to wear something else, and then they would dress maybe for dinner. So I think that is interesting if you can do that, if you're living alone and you are getting, you wanting to have some motivation, or maybe you have a little bit of uneasiness towards evening. Try changing. Try doing something that would have been done only in the evening. But now, of course, like I say, you can flip lights on. Another thing that we did one time, years ago in homeschooling, is we decided that for a day, we were not going to use the electric lights, so that we would be forced to only do things when the light was available. And then towards the evening, we would have to do other things. And we did light candles and try to do things in the evening. But you couldn't study a lot in the evenings. The light wasn't very good for that. And we just learned a lot of different things, that how things were different before there. You could just turn on a light, or just turn on water. And it was just an interesting time. And so changing your day into sections is very helpful, especially for homemaking. Now, you remember the book called Christy, written by Catherine Marshall, and there was a movie made of it many years ago. And I remembered in the book itself, which I read long before the movie was ever made, Christy was in, I believe she was in the Appalachians, and she said that there was a school there that was a religious school, I think maybe a Christian school, I'm not sure, but she said one of the things that she wanted to do was teach the children to come to class in clean clothes and brush their hair before they came to school, and make sure their fingernails were clean, and just generally, be pleasant, similar to George Washington. What's his name? Up from slavery. What was his name? Goodness, I can't think of it. I get him mixed up with his friend George Washington Carver, and he was the one that created Tuskegee Institute. And as many times as I've read that, I still can't think of his name. And Booker T. Washington, that was his name. But it was similar. Of the era was to teach people to be well groomed and to be presentable to the public for the day, or when you're around each other. Well, I think it applies to the home too. If you're going to be around people, why not be well groomed for them? And one of the things that she said in her book was, Christy, she said, I just decided, she said it started to be very discouraging because she was the only one that was dressed up. She said, I just decided to just be extra careful in my grooming, and that it made a big difference in her approach to her job and to life. Let's try to do that. I'll try to find that quote for you and put that on the post, where she said, I just determined I would be extra careful to take care of my hair, extra careful to make sure my blouse was fresh and clean, extra careful that I had this grooming that I was trying to teach others. So you could do that at home. And home is really the place where things have to be learned, because it's from there flow outward to the world, your manners and your demeanor and your moods. Now that brings us to the idea of being mature, the idea of being grown up. How do you know when you're mature? How do your children know when they're mature? They'll ask you, when will I be grown up? When will I not have to, obey all these rules or these orders? And the answer is when you don't have to be told, when you do things automatically and you don't have to be reminded. Go get dressed, go brush your teeth, go fix your hair. When you don't have to be told, when you take care of yourself without having to be reminded, that's when you are mature. That's when you're grown up. When people fail to grow, it's because they're failing to find ways to improve themselves. They're failing to do the things that they were told to do when they were not grown up. So a lot of people stop. They get stuck. It's like exercise. They say if you just do the same things over and over and exercise the same movements, you get stuck, might lose a few pounds and then just get stuck and not go anywhere. Well, it's the same with failure to grow. People can fail to grow. You wonder how you can work with somebody maybe 30 years in a church or something, and you look at them and you think, they just haven't moved an inch in some of the things that they need to grow around. Maybe they become arguers, or maybe they just never have taken care of themselves. They smell bad. They don't take care of their family's clothing. They're not good at their own home, and they just failed to grow because they did not try to do the things that they would have had to be told to do when they were younger. And so failure to grow means that you're just stuck doing the same things over and over. And one of the ways that I think was very helpful to me, as far as I always wanted to have a nice home, and I realized it wasn't so much the structure around me, but the way I was arranging and keeping the things that went in it. So therefore, I could move anywhere, and if we ended up in the manse, like we did here, I could still make it look like some place that I had always longed to be in by the way I took care of the things that were in it. And so I wanted to go on to some of the books that I have been looking at and reading. I don't have one here for you today, but I wanted to mention that as I have gone through some of these books in that room back there, I have found some old ladies' class study books that my mother-in-law had, and some of them date back quite a ways. And so I began to look through them to see what the lessons were, and there were really a lot of nice, knowledge, Bible knowledge lessons, but there weren't many or any. They just touched very lightly on the family. And the thing that helped me with what the focus should be in your life was homeschooling, because it brought it home to me that to have a love for each other in the family, and a care and concern and courtesy for the brothers and the sisters and the father and the mother, and to feel comfortable in your own home was the most important thing. And these things were not touched upon very much in these ladies' Bible class lessons, and that could be one reason women object a lot to the ladies' Bible class, especially if they're homeschoolers. But these things barely touched on the home, and a good marriage, and children, and raising children. And I never even read one single lesson in all those books that I'd collected on how to be patient with children, or how to teach your own children. There were lots of lessons on how ladies should act in the church, and how they should volunteer to teach little children, and but it never emphasized how important it was that the parents be the major teachers of the children. And also, I noticed there wasn't very much on being a a good housekeeper. It was mostly on knowledge, on how to know the Bible. That's nice, how to know the Bible, but the Bible doesn't give every single detail on how to be a homemaker. It just mentions in Titus 2 and I believe it's 1 Timothy 5:14 that women are to guide the house and the home and take care of it, and it mentions that the older women were to teach the younger women, so it gave them lots of leeway in how it would be taught and who would teach it and what sort of things you would learn. And I suppose every generation would have something different to learn about the house and the home, because things change. But I noticed in these ladies' Bible class, and I attended a lot of the ladies' Bible classes over the years, and noticed that many of them had great struggles in their families. Many of their children ended up being unbelievers, and they had a hard time, in their homes. And of course, they were faithful in the church and faithful to the ladies' Bible studies, but could never get a grip on the things that really mattered in the home and the family. And one of the reasons is, of course, those children were all going to public schools, and there's a conflict there because they come home and their parents have different values and want some orderliness, want politeness, want a little decent behavior and respect of each other. And in the schools was a completely different system going on there. And so I can almost always point to the fact that these kids were not really home. After they were come home from school, then there was probably another activity or school activities or homework or something that was all focused on that institution. And so some of these ladies' Bible class lessons that were going around at the time, and I have a big stack of them, didn't even address the home and the family. And where we were having at the time the most difficulties was the family, and these were not addressing the family. Where I found my path to success was through homeschooling, because there the parents become the people responsible for the children. They're not outsourcing their job. And if you remember Deuteronomy 6 and Ephesians 6, those are the two verses that speak specifically to the parents, that they are to be the teachers of their children. And of course, we always, looked for other ways to learn things. And the children had a piano teacher that we liked, and there were other things, but they didn't spend the enormous amount of time away from their home. And that way, they had time to develop the values like getting up and how to get out of bed in the morning, how to get ready, not be rushing off all the time, but how to think about what you're doing and think about cleaning up after yourself and think about how you look and how you dress. These were important to us. I wanted to talk a little bit about Noah and his qualities. And I had started talking about the Bible with you and trying to make you at least know what's in it. So I started with Genesis. And Genesis is where we see, I have a list here. Genesis is the creation, and then it's Adam and Eve, and then Cain and Abel, and then Noah. So that's Noah can be read in Genesis 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about Noah. And it said that Noah was faithful and that he walked with God in his generation, that he walked with God. Well, as you know, the Bible uses figures of speech and often uses words like walk, sit, stand, and run to apply to spiritual things. And you can learn that from Psalms chapter 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. And so, literally, people hang out and walk around on the sidewalks with people they probably shouldn't be walking around with because of their influence. I read to you about influence in my last lesson. So it said Noah walked with God. And so this is a figure of speech, meaning that he was aligned with, he followed in the path of what God's rules and laws were at the time. And so if you want to really raise aware teenagers, Teach them Psalms chapter 1, not just to memorize, but carefully analyze every phrase and every word, because it uses the word walk, stand, and sit. And so a teenager could make a speech out of that would last an hour. They could do a study on it where they could write about it. It would last several pages and be able to teach it. So what I wanted to talk about mostly about Noah was that it rained 40 days and 40 nights and created a flood. He was already on the ark with his family, but he was on the ship for 150 days. Okay, since June, it's been about 150 days that I've generally been in captivity on my own little ark. But when my children were younger, we read the story of Noah, and I was homeschooling at the time, so I said, let's go out, and it was raining really hard one day, and I said, let's go out on deck, and that would be our front porch under the little roof. On the front porch, we could hear the rain hitting the tin, and I said, let's think about what it was like for Noah and his family on the ark. And we played Noah and the ark and had a wonderful time, and we were busy. We were busy inside of our ark, the house, cleaning it up, making meals for each other, doing the laundry, taking care of ourselves. And I asked them, what do you think they did on the ark for 150 days? Well, there have been many studies and several really good movies made, or documentaries made about Noah. You might want to go, that'd be another one of your assignments, to look that up. I've already forgotten what the first one was. He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. I want you to dwell on that and look it up. Think about it. And so the next one be go find some documentaries about what would have kept that family busy for 150 days on that ark. And of course they had animals to take care of, and there were different levels of the ark where debris would go down to a certain level, and just different things that they would be busy doing, looking after that, a bunch of those chores that they had to do. And how would they have stayed together for 150 days and been able to withstand that? Because they came from a very busy world, I believe, and very intense, probably very productive, and it was very well populated. There would have been cities, there would have been plenty to do. And so I would challenge my children, okay, we're going to spend a day, it's raining, let's stay home and let's spend a day here and think about what to keep us busy in our own ark and to keep us happy and to still love one another. And one of the points of having your family is that you grow together, that you learn things together, and that there's no reason to be bored, because you're all going to be growing. You're all going to be growing in spiritual ways and in physical ways. You're all going to be learning, and so that when they're older, they will continue in this pattern of life of always looking for things to do that they don't have to be told what to do. That's when you know you're grown up. And then you treat your house as though it is a retreat, and that way you don't feel you're quote stuck at home. You treat it as though it's somewhere you came that is a retreat. Now, in the home, it's not so much, I know that a lot of women in the 60s, I remember, in the 50s and 60s, I remember magazine articles, which were just propaganda, as far as I'm concerned, for ladies' magazines. Now you can get such good ones, but there was always an article in some of these magazines, and I read them even as young as 11 and 12, of women feeling bored at home. And this was pushed on women, I guess, to feel that way when many of them had so much to do. And so they wanted to feel that they had value. But I believe that that's the wrong path to go down, to feel that you have value, because you can't depend on anyone's going to appreciate anything that you've done. And a lot of things, like I had to take some time out, wasn't even on my list, when I opened that drawer where I keep a lot of utensils for cooking. And I noticed that the the wood was rather scratched up, and I should have a liner in there, but I didn't want to go to the dollar store and buy something to put in there, so I took the paper, brown paper, and cut it and put it in there, and that took extra time. It wasn't even on my list. No one's going to know about these little sidetrack things that you do, like stopping to sew a button on, or kind of treating a stain before you put it in the wash, or different things that you have to do. Maybe you spilled something, you had to clean it up, and that led to something else. No one's going to appreciate it, and no one's going to notice it. And so you can't just worry about your value. You have to instead have a sense of purpose and focus. That will cover. You look at some of the great leaders of our nation and how they get no appreciation at all. Some people just absolutely do not get any appreciation because their eyes are headed for success, and that's what they want. They're looking for a purpose, a sense of purpose, and they have a purpose and they're headed for it. And it doesn't matter. You know, I can be going through the house and somebody will say to me, well, you look nice today, and I will be so preoccupied in my mind about where I'm headed and what I'm going to do that it doesn't matter to me that they said I looked nice. It's not something that I am looking for, because I have this purpose and there are so many things that I want to do. So we don't need to be looking for a sense of value as much as a sense of purpose, and then the value will naturally come. So we all wish that we could be valued, but if you have a sense of strong purpose of what kind of a homemaker or wife or mother or something, some other project that you want to do that you have a deep interest in, that's where you get your value naturally, and you don't have to worry about other people because they're not going to. Now, I've known this because I am a preacher's wife of nearly 50 years, and we've worked in so-called mission fields where the church is not very supportive, it's not big, it's not popular, and they don't appreciate, they bring the culture of their life. They don't ever, some people never give up the culture, and they'll come into Christ and they'll come into fellowship of the other church members, and they still bring in with them these attitudes that are very hard for them to give up, and they don't always appreciate what you're doing, so you forget about it. You just don't go for appreciating. You don't look around and say, I've been here 20 years and nothing has gelled with anybody and nothing has changed. You just go for your goals. You go for what you want to accomplish, and you realize after a while you cannot change other people. You can give them the inspiration and you can give them the influence, but after that it's up to them, and then you go on to grow more, and you just acquire more and more knowledge and skills, and look for things to do that will be fulfilling. Now, one of the things that people will tell you as a homemaker and a homeschooler is that, you know, you don't have a plan. We have a plan. Look, if you'll go into this institution, you spend 8 years here and another 4 years here, then you will be able to go into this career and do this, and that's a plan. And they will look at you and say, well, but you don't seem to have a plan, because you look like you're not, you know, you don't have a plan for your children. You're homeschooling them, but you really don't have a, quote, plan. But what they don't realize is that as homemakers and Christians and mothers, we don't plan out every single little thing. We just, here, look, you know, this is my Bible. This is our plan. And what it does is it just gives you a principle to live by. And it says, if you'll live by this principle, you'll have these consequences. If you don't live by these principles, then you'll have these consequences. And that's shown by a lot of examples. And so we don't take over our kids' lives and say, well, here's our plan. You're just going to spend 4 years doing this and 4 years doing that and 4 years doing that. But the world wants you to follow their plan. It's usually all about money. They're going to make money off of you if you follow a plan. And they'll say, you don't have a plan, and they will intimidate your children as they get into the teenage years, and they become an influence on others. Someone might say to them, you're homeschooled, but what's your plan? Do your parents have any plans for you? And but that's not the point. We do have plans for them. We are educating them in the heart too, and so that we can see after a while what they would have the most propensity for. We don't dictate plans for them, but we show them how to live. And it's not a lot about making a living. It's about how to live, and how to live spiritually, mentally, physically. And there's that scripture that I have read to you several times about Christ when he was younger, after he had been found in the temple, and his parents had to go back and find him. And he was teaching the elders, and it said after that he grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and with man. We can't hope for anything more than that. Wisdom and stature, and stature would mean a couple of things. It could be something physical, but it also could mean respect and status, and in favor with God and with man. Well, that's quite a bit of learning. Could you teach your children to grow in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man? That's spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and many other things. So don't let your children, you need to know that someone's going to say to them, well, but do your parents have a plan for you? And they will say it to you too as a homemaker. What kind of plan are you having? I mean, where are you going with all this? But you don't have to see the plan mapped out. A lot of it is waiting and seeing how things work out for you. And we might have an inkling of a bigger plan in the back of our minds, like someday, we want to have maybe a piece of land and a house or something. But some people don't want to try anything unless there's a plan all mapped out for them. That's, in my opinion, a lot like communism. They've got a nice plan for you. You follow their plan, and they'll supposedly take care of you. But that's not the way we work in the Bible and in the home. It all depends on what your interests are, and what your children's capabilities are. And we don't push people around into plans. So if you, and it's nice to have some kind of plan. The Bible says, without vision, the people perish. You have to have some kind of vision for your family. Well, we do. We really do. We want love and peace in the home. We want a cohesive family. We want to work together clear into our old age. We want to be able to interact with our family. That's our social life. We want to be able to worship together, and we want to continue our family together, which includes the elderly and the young. And so yes, we do have a plan. And then women at home, they'd like to have a well-repaired home. They'd like to have a pleasant home. They'd like to have a home that's arranged and decorated the way that pleases them, and helps them to be motivated. We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of plans. But unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't, and you don't have to convince anybody, but some people want to make you doubt. And so the best thing to do with some of these doubters and even haters is to just dig in and do double the amount that you're doing, and be amazed at what you can do. I have seen people over the age of 70 do more than they did when they were in their 20s, because by then their mind is made up about, and they're starting to look back and see how much time was wasted and how many mistakes they made, and they can do a lot. So if some of you are older now, you might want to think about the things that you didn't get to do that maybe you would like to try. I know I'm a sewist, and I have all these costume patterns, and I have always wanted to do one costume of every era, and get enough of the dress forms, and do kind of a little fashion show on these dress forms, and then with a little tag that explained the era, the year, and what was going on in the world at the time historically. I've had lots of ideas of things that I would like to do, and I can still do them if I really want to. So ladies, I hope that you get something done today, and I hope that you feel that you can have a goal and not worry about how much other people value you, but have a strong, steady, centralized purpose in your life. So be sure and leave a comment if you would like, and I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you get a lot done, and I love you. Bye.